Blog Talk Radio.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
My minions, my name's Tom-Marquis. You have stumbled across the number one internet sports talk show in the world between the hours of 9 a.m. and 11 a.m. And welcome to all of our affiliate radio stations who have joined us all across this great land of the United States of America. It's good to be American. It's good to be a sports fan. This is the one place where you, the sports fanatic, can come together, talk about your favorite teams in sports. And if you're a Browns fan, well, let's hear it. Let it rip. I think the quarterback question in Cleveland has been answered, and we'll get into that later on in the show. But yes, what a win for the Cleveland Browns. They knocked one off. The beer coolers come unlocked. We'll get into that later on in the show. Coming up here at the top of the hour, we've got Matthew Embry, our official Indy Car contributor, going to be giving us a recap of the 2018 Indy Car season, and we'll kind of tip our toes a little bit into some college football talk as we were unable to get breaking on Wednesday. We apologize for that, but we'll do our best to make it that for you. Our executive producer, Rick-riggin, will be joining us in the show today as well. And ed-kracz, beat writer for the Philadelphia Eagles, going to be joining us and talking with us a little bit about the Eagles and the Colts matchup. Of course, that big win with the Cleveland Browns over the Jets, and who their quarterback may or may not be. The suspense is so high. Mo from the BS Sports Show joins us as well. As always, this is the one place you want to be. 917-889-8516 is my digits. You want to call and talk, we're all ears. We'll be right back right here on the Balance Radio Network.
Tonight, I just want to take you away. Blow your hands up in the train. Let's set this party alright. Players, put your pinky rings up to the moon. Girls, what y'all trying to do?
The Air National Guard is a reserve component of the United States Air Force and serves alongside active-duty Air Force members in times of a national crisis. In addition, the Air Guard serves the state and local community in a wide range of capacities. The reason people join the Air Guard is as diverse as our members and includes such reasons as a deep desire to serve their country, money for college, travel, new job skills, and the pride that goes along with belonging to the greatest military organization in the world. I joined because I felt a calling to serve my country, but I didn't want to be far away from my family, so the Indiana Air National Guard was a perfect fit for me. With over 95 different career opportunities to choose from and 100% paid college tuition to any state-funded college, why not give us a call? Call 1-800-841-3103 or visit online at goang.com to find out more. Again, that's 1-800-841-3103. The Air National Guard, guarding America, defending freedom.
It's double trouble, double the fun at African Safari Wildlife Park in Port Clinton, Ohio. See the largest antelope on Earth, the giant eland, and the ugliest creature on Earth, the African warthog. There's so much to see and do, including the Midwest's only drive-through safari. Feed the animals, see live educational shows, feel the excitement. Have your picture taken with a python or cockatoo. Feel the adventure. Shop the Symbol Lodge gift shop with items available from around the globe. Visit the snack bar or picnic facilities. Enjoy a pony or camel ride. Or cheer your favorite porker on to victory in the famous Pork Chop Down. Bring your family to see the rare and exotic animals at African Safari Wildlife Park in Port Clinton, Ohio. Just take Route 2 to the Route 53 North exit and follow the sign. Only 17 miles west of Cedar Point via Route 6. Open every day, rain or shine.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be confusing. Like Swedish techno confusing.
Bark, bark, meow, meow. Dance with me, purple cow. Bark, bark, meow, meow. Ooh, you lovely cow.
Geico makes it easy. With 24/7 access, all you have to do is go to Geico.com and you could save money on car insurance. It just makes sense. Unlike, you know.
Dance with me, purple cow. I like your moves.
When you don't go to Geico.com, car insurance can be hard. Like early 90s heavy metal hard.
I'm yelling and screaming and I'm loud. Roar.
Geico makes it easy. You can review and update your policy or report a claim on Geico.com or the Geico mobile app. Because shouldn't we all have a little less stress in our lives?
I'm not even upset about anything.
All right, and welcome back to the Balance. My name is tom-marquis, El Presidente. We're going to be joined here in just a moment by Matthew Embry, who is our official Indy Car contributor, but also jumps on and talks some Notre Dame football. So we're going to get into that with him now. Matthew Embry, how are you doing, sir?
Well, it's another Notre Dame Saturday, but I tell you what, consider what's happened the last 2 weeks, a close shave against Ball State, another close shave against the Vanderbilt team that was too mistake-prone to beat the Irish. This Wake Forest game being the first road game of the year certainly provides a landmine that Notre Dame all of a sudden is going to have to dodge, and considering when we talked at the start of the year on Breaking Rank with rick-riggin, this is certainly a different scenario than what we were expecting at the start of the year.
Yes, absolutely, and I do want to get into that, and we will get into that, but I do want to, because you also are our official IndyCar contributor, I want to kind of do a recap of the 2018 season and kind of look at what's coming up with funny season. Obviously, Scott Dixon wins championship out in Simona, and Marco Andretti comes in fifth. Just kind of give us a recap of what we saw in 2018 IndyCar.
Well, obviously, a fifth title for Scott Dixon. That's the big deal right there. Ryan Hunter-Reay closing out the year with a victory. Unfortunately, first lap faux pas cost Alexander Rossi a shot. Solid season for Will Power, finishing third, winning the Indy 500. And, of course, defending the title, Joseph Newgarden finishes fifth in points. And then you have the second highest of the Hondas, Ryan Hunter-Reay, jumping all the way to the fourth thanks to the double points race at Sonoma. Obviously, with this being the last race at Sonoma, the final race, of course, this upcoming year will be at Laguna Seca, so it's going to be an interesting turn and obviously a nostalgic turn, as that was a common finale during the old kart years pre-96 splits. So a lot to look forward to for next year, and especially an increased car count. And while that's all going on, obviously the talk of where Fernando Alonso may end up is still a question mark at this point. And that's the big chip to fall at this point as to the silly season, is where he will end up now that Scott Dixon has announced that he is staying with Ganassi and not going to this proposed McLaren organization.
Well, you're right. Everybody's talking about it. Everybody's waiting to see where this domino's going to fall. We saw Fernando Alonso do some testing. So I think it's apparent that he's at least going to run the Indy 500 and maybe a couple other races. I don't know if it'll be a full-time ride yet, but certainly it's going to create a ripple effect throughout IndyCar. So we're certainly going to be watching it quite regularly. Nice to see Robert Wickens on the road to recovery. What do we know new about him? Obviously, he is moving his legs. I think a lot of it is with assistance But hey, it's moving in the right direction. Don't know if we'll ever see him in a race car again. And right now, that's obviously not the most important thing on everybody's mind. Good to just to see that he's alive and recovering. But what do we know about Robert Wickens?
Well, I think right now Wickens at this point, unless some miracle happens. Now, granted, we were surprised when Sebastian Bourdais came back as soon as he did. I think the earliest we're going to be talking about Robert Wickens, if at all, would be 2020. So it's going to be interesting to see who Schmidt-Peterson adds as a replacement. And obviously the one that stands out the most based on a couple solid runs in place of Wickens to close out the season, obviously, is Carlos Munoz, who, hard to believe, didn't even have a ride this year except for the Indy 500.
Yeah, absolutely. I tell you what, you mentioned Sebastian Bourdais. I remember when we were out here in Indy when that happened. You and I were actually hanging out at the track together. So, yeah, you never know with these kind of things. But, man, what a scary wreck it was. Let's talk a little bit about the funny season, then we'll get into some Notre Dame talk. Ryan Hunter-Reay, though, he dominated their Indy Car there in Sonoma, but it wasn't quite enough for the championship, obviously. But Ryan Hunter-Reay, I would say, had at least a passing grade for 2018.
Well, certainly he's bounced back. Obviously, a couple difficult years. Had been known as an Indy-only specialist, I think, the last few years. Since winning the Indy 500, kind of was not a factor at Indy this year, but through the rest of the schedule, and obviously the double points at Sonoma helped. But much more solid season, I'd say, from Hunter-Reay. And Rossi finishing second in points, and then you have Marco Andretti, his first top 10 points appearance, I believe, in 4 years. So a lot of optimism there, and but going back to Bourdais, I'm very curious to see what happens for him because there is rumors about the other business partners with this coin entry, Jimmy Vasser, James Sullivan. There has been some talk that they have purchased their own Dallara. So is this going to be a breakaway team that takes Sebastian Bourdais and the Sealmaster sponsorship with them? That's another thing we're talking about. We're also seeing with Dale Coyne Racing, they're even talking to the other McLaren driver for the past few years, Stoffel Vandoorne, as possible ride. So you add that along to Pietro Fittipaldi and Zachary Clayman de Mello, and you got a very interesting situation there at Coyne, and possibly with this breakaway team involving Jimmy Vasser and James Sullivan.
Spencer Pigot returns to Ed Carpenter Racing. They seem to have a good relationship going on there. What do we know about Ed Carpenter going into the funny season?
I think right now Ed Carpenter keeps insisting he's going to split the number 20 entry between himself and another driver, and that most likely will be Jordan King again. I just don't understand what you're gaining from that. I think you just don't gain any consistency when you're changing drivers in one car through event. I don't think it would be too much of an extra burden to provide an extra car for Ed at the oval events. I don't think that's taken away from anything. And, again, Jordan King wants to be a full-time driver. He doesn't want to be a road course specialist. I think he's made that pretty clear. And I don't think it's too much of a burden for ECR the way that these Dallaras are now more affordable now with the universal aero kits. And also the engine leases are not nearly as taxing as they were in the past. That's why you have the possibility. We've been hearing as many as 26 to 28 full-time cars next year, Tom. I don't see what the extra burden would be to provide just an extra car for Ed for those oval events.
Well, I totally agree, and we'll see how that plays out. Will Power obviously drank the milk here at Indianapolis this year, capping a very good career for him. In fact, he stated, I could retire now. Of course, he's not going to do that, but Will Power obviously wins the 2018 Indianapolis 500. How would you rate his season, and what does he look like going into the funny season?
See the article where he did a double take when he went to William Barron's studio, the man that does the visages for the 500 trophy, the Borg Warner, and he did a double take on seeing that. And obviously, for instance, for those of you interested in that, they will unveil Will Power's face on the Borg Warner on December the 5th, I believe, at the Hall of Fame Museum. But another solid year for Power. He is clearly now the number one when I thought Joseph Newgarden was on the verge of taking that spot away from him at Team Penske. And I think the guy, though, that needs to bounce back is Pagenaud. Yes, he finished sixth in the points, but I think he is still coming to grips with this universal aero kit. I mean, that's part of the reason why I don't think he won a pole and didn't win a race this past year. So I think he certainly is going to be under the gun entering 2019. And then the rumor swirling around is they are expanding to 4 cars, while Helio Castroneves is not the man expected to return to full-time service. I'll be very curious to see who the captain is going after if he is expanding to 4 cars again, if it's not Helio Castroneves.
Well, I think the obvious thing that people would want to talk about is it Fernando Alonso? Everybody's going to ask, is it Fernando Alonso? We look over at Andretti Motorsports, Alexander Rossi, one of their top drivers. Marco Andretti does fifth